some disappearances you can file away. You read the report, close the folder, and move on. And then there are the others, the ones you can't stop replaying in your head. A 19-year-old college kid, a single phone call, and a spring night in rural Minnesota that swallowed him whole. This is the case of Brandon Swanson, and 15 years later, I still can't let it go. May 14th, 2008. It's the early hours of the morning, the kind of quiet where even the wind sounds like it's holding its breath. Brandon Swanson was heading home from a small celebration with friends in Canby, Minnesota. His first year at college had just ended. He was sober, clear-headed, just a kid making the 30-mile drive back to his parents' house in Marshall. But somewhere along a gravel back road, he missed a turn. At 1:54 a.m., his parents' phone rang. It was Brandon. His voice was calm, almost casual. He'd driven into a ditch. No damage, no injuries, just stuck. He thought he was right outside the small town of Lind. He asked them to come get him. They drove out, scanning the dark, flashing their headlights so he could spot them. But Brandon couldn't see a thing. The strange part, they couldn't see him either. After a while, he told them he saw lights in the distance. Probably Lind, he thought. He decided to walk toward them while they stayed on the line. The call lasted 47 minutes. Over that time, Brandon described his surroundings. Fences along the road, gravel crunching under his shoes, the faint sound of running water nearby. The air was cool, damp, the kind of rural darkness where your own footsteps feel louder than they should. His voice never wavered, until it did. Almost an hour in, Brandon stopped mid-sentence. There was a pause, then 2 words. "Oh, shh," and the line went dead. By daylight, the Lyon County Sheriff's Department was involved. They found his car, but not near Lind. It was almost 25 miles away, near the tiny town of Taunton, parked along a gravel road by a field. Tracking dogs followed his scent from the car to the Yellow Medicine River. Across the river, they picked up his trail again, only to lose it on the far bank. The water was searched. The fields were searched. Not once, not twice, but again and again and again over the years. No trace of Brandon, no clothing, no phone, no remains. You get used to cold cases in this line of work, but there's something about this one that sticks. We don't have a crime scene. We don't have witnesses. We don't even have a theory that ties it all together. What we do have is a 19-year-old kid, walking alone through the Minnesota dark, talking to his parents until the very last second. I'd think about those final words more than I should. What did he see? What did he hear? And why did the earth seem to just swallow him? If you know anything about the disappearance of Brandon Swanson, contact the Lyon County Sheriff's Department. Because somewhere out there, in the cold dark of that Minnesota night, the truth is still waiting to be found. You work in law enforcement long enough, you learn to live with unanswered questions. But some cases, they claw at you. 3 women, 1 small house, no signs of struggle. And then, nothing. No bodies. No evidence. Just silence. For more than 30 years, I've been chasing that silence. They called it the case of the Springfield Three. It's June 6th, 1992, Springfield, Missouri. The summer air is thick and still, the kind of heat that clings to your skin. Susie Streeter, 19, and her best friend Stacy McCall, 18, had just graduated high school the day before. That night, They'd been out celebrating with friends. The plan was to stay at a hotel, but it was crowded. So instead, they decided to crash at Susie's house. Susie lived with her mother, Cheryl Levitt, 47. A warm, hard-working woman with a close circle of friends. By all accounts, she and her daughter were as safe as anyone could be in a quiet suburban neighborhood. By the morning of June 7th, all three of them were gone. Friends came by the next day when the women didn't show up for plans. They found the front door unlocked. Inside, the house looked untouched. No signs of a break-in, no overturned furniture, no blood. All three women's cars were still in the driveway. Purses, keys, cigarettes, still inside the house. Even Cheryl's dog was there, pacing nervously. The only thing out of place? A broken globe on the porch light, glass scattered on the steps. Whoever had taken these women, or convinced them to leave, had done it without leaving a trace. From the start, the theory spun out in every direction. An abduction by someone they knew. A stranger who slipped in under cover of darkness. Some pointed to an unsolved crime in the area. Others whispered about human trafficking. The phone inside the home became a point of focus. 2 strange calls came in that morning. Both were described as obscene. Police were never able to confirm if they were connected. Detectives followed tip after tip. They searched fields, quarries, and even a parking garage after a witness claimed to have seen the women there. Every lead collapsed into the same brick wall. The years ticked by. Evidence boxes gathered dust. But every so often, something would flare up. A local man in prison claimed he knew where the bodies were. His story changed every time he told it. A woman swore she'd seen them alive years later in another state. None of it ever checked out. One of the most haunting parts? There's no crime scene, just a quiet house in a quiet neighborhood that overnight became a black hole. I've walked through that house more times than I can count. Every creak of the floorboards, every shadow in the corner. You look for meaning in things that don't have any. I picture them. 3 women, tired from a night out, slipping into bed, with no idea the clock was running out. I wonder if they heard something outside. A knock at the door, a familiar voice, and then they were gone. 33 years later, the case of the Springfield Three is still open. There's no statute of limitations on a mystery like this. If you know anything at all, contact the Springfield Police Department. Because somewhere out there, someone knows what happened. And until they speak, the silence will keep winning. Some cases make you question everything you thought you knew about justice. The Army called it a suicide. Her family called it impossible. And the evidence? Well, the evidence doesn't seem to agree with either story. This is the case of Private First Class LaVena Johnson. And 15 years later, the questions haven't gone away. July 19th, 2005. Balad, Iraq. 19-year-old LaVena Lynn Johnson had been serving with the U.S. Army for just 8 weeks. She was a bright, driven young woman from Missouri. Honor roll student, athlete, someone who, by all accounts, could light up a room. She joined the Army to help pay for college. Her deployment was almost over. She'd been in contact with her family, talking about plans for when she got home. There was no sign of despair, no sign she wanted to die. On July 19th, LaVena's parents got a visit no parent should ever have to face. 2 soldiers stood at their door and told them their daughter had died from a self-inflicted gunshot wound. It didn't make sense. They were told she'd been upset over a breakup, that she'd walked into a contractor's tent on base, grabbed her M16, and taken her own life. But when her body was returned to Missouri, the story started to unravel. Her father, Dr. John Johnson, noticed bruises on her body, a broken nose, loose teeth, chemical burns on her hands, scratches on her face. When he asked the Army about it, they brushed it off, saying injuries can happen after death, during transport. Then came the autopsy photos. They showed evidence of possible sexual assault. Her clothes had been burned, and the gunshot wound was on the left side of her head, despite LaVena being right-handed. The Army stuck to its ruling: suicide. They said the case was closed. Her family didn't agree, and they've been fighting that ruling ever since. Through Freedom of Information requests, the Johnsons obtained more records. They learned LaVena's body was found inside a burning tent, that the fire had been started after she was shot, that a trail of blood led away from her body. The details didn't add up, and yet the official stance never changed. You work enough cases, you can accept tragedy. You can even accept suicide when the evidence supports it. But in this one, the pieces don't fit. I think about LaVena's last hours a lot. Whether she was scared, whether she knew she was in danger, whether there was someone she trusted who turned out not to be. And I think about her family, who've spent every year since that night in 2005 pushing against a wall that refuses to move. The death of LaVena Johnson is officially ruled a suicide by the U.S. Army. Her family, and many who've studied the evidence, believe otherwise. If you know anything, if you served in Balad in 2005, if you heard or saw something that night, speak up. Because until the truth comes out, LaVena's story remains locked away. In a tent, in the dark, thousands of miles from home.